Okay, just like the title says, my top 25 video games. Obviously there will be gameplay when I talk about them, and the thing is, other people would probably make it so that you can't see them all at once. I'm gonna show them all to you. Like, you can scroll through the list, or you can't really scroll. You can look through the list. Those are all my top 25 favorite games, with some more, some less. Like, it changes. Like, sometimes a game like Zookeeper wouldn't get into the top 25 because then I would remember this game. You know, it's like not something like a total definitive 25 top games of all time. And obviously new games release every day, so there could be new games that come out that will make me think, wow, you're going to my top 25. And obviously, when I edit the video, I'm going to do this without a script or anything like that. When the video kind of, I will put some gameplay over it, so your eyes can feast upon some great gameplay from these games. Because otherwise, you might think, wow, I don't want to watch a video where there's no video. But, I mean, it wouldn't change. It's mostly a video where I just talk. I mean, that's kind of normal, or about these kind of videos. But anyways, enough about that. And these are my top 25 games at the moment. Like, it could change, like, I did this chart like a few days ago, and there was Gothic 2 on there instead of Crosscode. I didn't had Undertale on there, and this time I kind of thought a little bit more about it, and was like, I'm really gonna put my top 25 games in here and talk a little bit about them. Some I will talk more about, some less, but we have already stalled a whole 90 seconds, so I'm just gonna start. And also, I kept it to one game per franchise. I think, otherwise there would be Xenoblade X, there would be Xenoblade, there would be Xenosaga 3, there would be Xenogears and stuff like that. So I kind of went through some of my favorite franchises and thought, like, which one do I like the most? Like, Twilight Princess is my favorite Zelda, but I love so many other Zelda. I love Majora's Mask, I love Ocarina of Time, I love basically every Zelda game except Tears of the Kingdom, hot take. I loved Breath of the Wild though, and that's the thing. I kept it to one franchise, of one game of a franchise I really love. But anyways, let's just start with, let's randomly pick one game. Super Paper Mario. Super Paper Mario for many people was the downfall in a way for the Paper Mario games, but everyone can shut up about it now, because you're gonna get your Paper Mario 2 remake soon. You can buy it, hopefully it sells well, so people can get another Paper Mario that feels like a real Paper Mario game. But Super Paper Mario for me as a kid was amazing. The gameplay, even as a kid, was like, meh. Like, you don't really do anything with the 2D mechanic, really. Like, there's some little tiny puzzles, but it's not really making me think, wow, this is the puzzle game of my dreams. And it's not really jump and one-y either, You do a little bit of jump and running, but it's not really that great. The gameplay is not, for me, the star of the game. It's the characters, the story, how it kind of goes for most Paper Mario games. Like, Paper Mario 2 and 1 have really fun gameplay mechanics with how you have to time your hits and your blocks, and I love that. But Super Paper Mario, story-wise, was just so nice to me. And obviously, if you look at the characters, you might think, wow, these characters look like stupid, but they go quite some places. Like, Black is like one of the best villains in Mario franchise, and I'm not afraid to say that the game made me cry at the end. I shed a many tear at the end of the game when I was younger, and I would still do it when I replay the game every once in a while. But it combines so many unique ideas, and it's gameplay-wise not the best, but it is just fun. It's not like hating the player like like Sticker Stars or Origami King. Like, the gameplay still kind of makes you not totally try to avoid everything. Paper Mario, my favorite Paper Mario game. I don't want to be skinned alive by people who love 2 and 1 more, but I let everyone love what they love, right? So if you like those more, it's fine. I mean, I would be fine with getting skinned alive if I would pick Paper Star. Why do I keep saying paper instead of Sticker Star? I don't know. I'm kind of sleepy. Then next we have Cave Story. Cave Story was like the first indie game that I really played, and it came out in like 2004, which I haven't played it at that time. I played it in like 2009 or something, and it was like the first indie game that really made me feel like this is like a real game. Like, other Flash games you played online for free was like, they were Flash games. They were like freeware games too, but most of them were short. They didn't really have like this production feel to it. While Cave Story was basically made by one singular man, called Pixel, I think. He made such a great game all by himself, basically, which blew my mind when I found out about it. I was like, gameplay is great. story is great, music is great. It was like Undertale before Undertale for me. Undertale obviously also was mostly done by Toby Fox with some help, but in a way it gives you this motivation to do it yourself one day. Let's just say since that day when I played Cave Story and I thought like, oh, I want to make a video game by myself too, I haven't gotten very far. I'm not a very creative person. But it still gives me the motivation to maybe one day do that. But something about the game is just so... I kind of hate the word nowadays, wholesome, but it gives you hope. And it's so melancholic. Cave Story is just the perfect indie jump and... It's not really jump and run. It's more like an action adventure, but some people would even call it a Metroidvania in a way. But it's not. It's like a jump and run action adventure where... There's so many cool places to go. The battle system with how you level up your different weapons with the Doritos is really nice. Where you shoot enemies, they drop the Doritos, you pick up the Doritos, and enough Doritos make it so your weapon turns into a different weapon in a way. Like instead of shooting once, you now shoot lasers and it makes more damage. And then when you get hit, you lose the Doritos. It's like a really nice little concept that just makes it something unique. And you get like fun of the characters like King, and even the one enemy, you know, the television looking dude with this, I think his name is for some reason in my head he's called Soap, I don't know why, and it's just so nice. And the boss battles are amazing, even though I hate like this there's like this boss in the mines where it's like a robot kind of mecha thing, and that boss can go fuck itself. But aside from that, there's nothing bad I can say about Cave Story. In a way, it's a perfect video game, just like Super Metroid. But the thing is, Super Metroid is not on my list because I have Metroid Prime 2 here. Otherwise, there would also be Super Metroid, because Super Metroid is a perfect game for me, just like Cave Story. Like, there's nothing about Cave Story that is bad. There's nothing that the game could add to make it even better. Like, you could say, oh, better, more would be better, but that's not always the case. It has the perfect length. It has the perfect music, it has the perfect look, it has the perfect everything. And I fucking hate the company that literally scammed the guy, because he kind of... He's not good at English, I think that's the story. He's not good at English, and obviously Nicholas, I think is the name of the company, they kind of did the deal, and the deal was like they get like the rights to it kind of, and now he kind of got scammed out of his own thing. So fuck that company, fuck them. I will never buy any Cave Story thing that they're publishing. If you want to play Cave Story, play the original. It's the best version anyways. And fuck them for scamming that person. Don't buy any of their games. Except if any game comes out that is published by them, where you want to give... I mean, most people that make indie games have like a Patreon or something. Just give them money on Patreon instead of giving them... publishing money to Nicholas. Just fuck that company. Then next we have Pokemon Silver. You know, can say, wow, he's a boomer, Pokemon Silver, wow, get with the times, old timer. But the thing is, I'm not someone who says the new Pokemon games are bad. I just love the second game that I've played of this series the most. Like, I played the first game, played the second game, and the second game, it was like a mind-blowing experience. Because it was basically the same game, but it was just better. But also because as a kid there was like nothing else than beating the Johto region, and then suddenly you were allowed to go back to Kanto. Like that's like such a cliche thing to say when you say those are your favorites. But having a whole different region that is almost still the same from back in the day. I mean, there's not that much to do in there except finding the arena leaders and then fighting Red and thinking, holy shit, this is the coolest thing ever, the music. But just the overall experience of that is such a feel that made me think, holy moly, I will never get to see something so cool again. Until to this day, it's like, wow. But Pokemon still also had great games afterwards. You know, I'm not one of those people who says, it feels a little bit sad that I even have to say this, but I've seen people that say like, oh yeah, the older Pokemon games are the best for me, and people say like, oh, it's because you hate the newer ones, isn't it? Oh, nowadays you probably think Pokemon look like Digimon, but no, I think actually the newest generations, like after Sun and Moon, have like the best designs since ever, basically. I love the new Pokemon design philosophy. I love the new designs most of the time. But just the experience of playing this game, like you basically have like Pokemon, but like the best way ever. And as someone who doesn't care about the gameplay too much, like nowadays you see lots of people shitting on the first generation, even the second one, because, oh, you know, back in the day there was like no variety for against this type on this type, and it's like, I don't really care about any of that. I don't play Pokemon competitively. All I care about is a great experience, cute Pokemon, and for me that is literally definitive Pokemon experience for me. It's simple, it's fun, and there's a lot of things to catch. And I love Lugia, even though I had both editions. Even though it was like my sister got gold, I got silver, but eventually we got the games again. I don't even know why. Then everyone had like 2 copies. I don't know. Somehow that just happened. I wish I could clone things, but sadly I can't. No More Heroes on the Wii. I bought this back in the day at GameStop because I went to GameStop. I got 2 games for 18 bucks, and both games, I mean, No More Heroes isn't worth that much, but the other game was Fire Emblem Path of Radiant Dawn. Radiant Dawn is the Wii one, right? Path of Radiance is the GameCube one, and I got both games together for 18 bucks. Fire Emblem now alone costs 100, but you know, that's not part of the No More Heroes story. Like, I bought both games on the same day. And, you know, I always read, like, good things about it online, because it's, like, brutal, it's, like, fucked up, it's, like, wow, you have a mature game on the Wii, that's crazy. But if you really think about it, No More Heroes is not totally mature. It's, like, dark humor type, but it's not really too dark humor. It's just a funny experience in a way. And the thing is, you know, it's the kind of game where the whole franchise kinda is my favorite, but the thing is, I hate No More Heroes Wii. I think No More Heroes Wii was a letdown in multiple ways. Travel Strikes Back was okay though, but you know, I'm also a fan of the second game. I think the second game is still great, even though Suda51 did less with the game than he did with the first one and the third one now. And it's a fun game to play, even though, you know, the stages are sometimes a little bit, ooh, there's not that much fun, but it's just the kind of stylish, unique experience that I always wanted in a way, without knowing that you wanted it. It's like something that you just play and you think, yeah, this may be stupid as fuck, but it's still cool as fuck, even if it's stupid as fuck. You know, Travis is kind of like a loser, but the thing is, many people will probably call me out on a take like this, where I say like, Travis is actually cool, but he is actually cool. The thing is, he grows throughout the games. But the thing is, even his loser himself is still really cool. Like, he's a naive little idiot who wants to become an assassin, but he still thinks like, oh, my morals are, I don't want to kill a woman, I can't do that. The thing is, killing Holy Summers, I won't be able to do that either, not because she's a woman, but because she's a hot woman. It's like, you're literally killing a woman, and you make it one less woman on Earth, and killing a woman, that is sad. But killing a man, that's not sad. I don't care. Even though, you know, there's like this hot twin guy in the second game at the first time, and you beat him, and he dies, and he's like a reference to Cloud, and he's kind of hot. He's a cute twin kind of. So I'm kind of sad about killing that dude too. But it doesn't matter. You know, an assassin kills an assassin. But, you know, he has this naive morals and stuff like that. And the thing is, you know, you would have to really do a deep dive into his psychologically developed trauma and all that stuff, you know. And but basically, you know, it's a silly game where if you look deeper into it, it's like, okay, there's a little bit here and there, but it's still very silly. Not to take away the more deeper aspects of the game. But it's a fun game. It has cool characters. I would never forgive Suda51 for whiting out Shinobu and Batgirl out of the third game. I was so excited, you know, I kind of thought before 3 came out that they both are going to play a big role, and then Suda51 just goes like, you know what, those 2 cool characters, they do nothing in this fucking game, and I will not forgive him for that. Actually, I will forgive him and play the next game he will work on too. But, you know, No More Heroes, we put a real damper onto my love for No More Heroes. But that's not part of the thing. You know, I love No More Heroes 1 and 2 and Travel Strikes Back. And the next Wii game is Fragile Dreams for the Wii. Probably, I mean, actually, no, it's not that unknown. It's the kind of game that, you know, if you Google underrated Wii games, it probably pops up somewhere. And I always describe it as some kind of Silent Hill for teenage weeps. You know, it's not really scary. I mean, it tries to be a little bit scary, but it's like kind of like a walk in the park in comparison to something like Silent Hill. It has a very deep atmosphere sometimes, but it's still also a very bleak game with hope. Because the thing is, you're the only alive boy, and you only search for other survivors because some stuff happened. And you see a white-haired girl, and you follow her, and you try to find her again. And on your journey, you're alone. The only people you meet are like a machine, you meet a ghost girl, and stuff like that. You know, it's not really humans. It's still, you know, it explores those themes a little bit, like what is a machine to humans? What is death? What do you do when the future looks so bleak? Loneliness, those kind of topics. It also has like things you can find in the areas where they give you backstory. So you go around, you find like origami, you find like one piece of origami and it gives you like one part of a story, and then you find another part, like a kid who loves to play with origami, you find that, and then eventually you find another story that corresponds to that story, and it goes like, oh, it's like the mom of that kid who lost this thing. And it gives it a nice little backstory. And throughout, the gameplay is kind of like, you know, people nowadays, they always say like, it's basically Silent Hill, where your character can't really fight well, and people always love to say this excuse of like, obviously you can't fight well, you're not trained to do that. So, you know, if you have a metal pipe, he punches really slowly, it doesn't do a lot of damage, and the end boss is a little bit, I don't know why the game even needed bosses in the first place, really, like, most of the bosses kind of suck, but overall the gameplay is like, serviceable. But the atmosphere, the music, it's, if you love piano soundtracks, look up the soundtrack. I have one track uploaded on my channel, to all people, which is one of my favorite ones. And there's also another funny story. The thing is, I saw this game in magazine, GamePro, back in the day, and I saw like, wow, I need to have this game. I bought it on release day, and I was in MediaMarkt, which is like a German big retail thing, and when I went to the checkout, there was a girl at the checkout who scanned my game, and she called over to like her co-worker who was at the other checkout, and she showed her like the game, and she didn't say anything more than that, but you know, she basically showed her friend that I was someone that bought the game, and maybe she also really liked the game, and she probably bought the game too on that day, because why else would she show it to a friend? Like, maybe those two girls were like, wow, this game came out today, and there's like the first guy who actually buys the game too today. You know, maybe that was my chance to get a girlfriend, but I was like 15, and obviously since you work at MediaMarkt, they must have been at least like 18, 19, probably even older. So yeah, I don't think that would have worked. So next game that I'm going to pick out of the next bowl, Zookeeper. Zookeeper is basically Bejeweled, and everyone knows Bejeweled. If you don't know Bejeweled, you know Candy Crush, right? Candy Crush Saga on the phones, and that's basically what it is. But instead of crushing candy or jewels, you do it with cute animals. And this was like the first time I fell in love with a game like that. When I was a kid, I didn't really like Tetris. It was like, what is the point of getting a high score? I wanted experiences like stories, action adventures, things like that. I wasn't deep into arcade games as a kid. I didn't want to care about high scores, and I still don't care about high scores, but something like a game like Bejeweled is just so nice to play when you're really, really bored. When you're bored, there's nothing better than Bejeweled. You sit there and you just match the things together, and they make you happy. You make a big combo, you make me happy, or you make yourself happy with that combo. You just get happy. I don't know. Basically, it's like when you get like the big stick in Tetris, and you do a Tetris where you clear 4 walls in a row, in a line. You can't really describe the feeling. And that's what Zookeeper is for me. It showed me how great Bejeweled is, and I have a fairly big time in playtime on Bejeweled 3 on Steam. And probably also on Zookeeper, even more. It's the kind of game where, you know, nowadays I don't really play it much, because if I would play on emulator, dragging with the mouse feels a little bit wrong, because back in the day you obviously played it with stylus, where you drag it with a stylus, and if I really want to just do a matching game, I just play Honey Pop. No, I play Bejeweled 3. I don't really play Honey Pop, because that is a little bit different. But yeah, it showed me how great those games can be. They could also be Tetris. Nowadays I love Tetris. I love arcade games nowadays, like Breakout. Bejeweled. Zumba is, I think, the thing where you like this machine and you shoot out balls. Bubble Shooter, those games nowadays I freaking love them. Mario Kart Double Dash is my favorite Mario Kart. I wasn't a lover of Mario Kart 64, but back in the day, you know, I didn't have a Nintendo 64 and I didn't have a PlayStation till a little bit later. But I had a friend who had both, and the friend had Mario Kart 64 and he had also, what is it called? He also had Crash Team Racing, and we played Crash Team Racing once after we played Mario Kart 64, and I loved it so much more. I was like, wow, this game is fun. And then every time we wanted to play like a kart game, he was like, yeah, let's play Mario Kart 64. And I was like, well, why not Crash Team Racing? And he's like, I prefer Mario Kart 64. And his house, his rules, right? And sometimes we still played Crash Team Racing a little bit, but Mario Kart 64 just never felt like a super fun game to me. It was fine, but... And then, you know, Christmas 2003, Christmas time, me and my sister got the GameCube with the bundle of Double Dash. Because the GameCube was like for both of us, I mostly used it, but... And it was just so much fun. It's also the most unique Mario Kart. Like most Mario Karts, they add something. And Mario Kart 64 was the first 3D one. Mario Kart Double Dash has the Double Dash mechanic, where you can also do the Double Dash if you have two players in one kart and press the Super Start at once, and then you do the Double Dash, which many people probably never have done in their life. Many people probably have never done a Double Dash, because aside from that, it's kind of boring to sit in the same kart, and I think that's the reason why they will never bring it back, sadly. But it's Mario Kart. I probably played the second most. I played Mario Kart Wii the most because of online, and I was in a Wii clan. You know, now you can maybe laugh, because who the fuck is in a Wii clan? And you can also laugh, so you can listen to your own laugh real quick while I take a sip of my Pepsi real quick. And it's just super fun with friends. It looks amazing. The items for the own characters, you know, like Bowser and Bowser Jr. have their big shells. Chain Chomp with the babies, which is basically Bullet Bill but less strong, because the Chain Chomp could get defeated if you drove into a banana and stuff like that. And it was just so unique. Every Mario Kart afterwards wasn't so unique anymore. Mario Kart Wii introduced, Mario Kart DS actually introduced online, and it had the double screens, and Mario Kart Wii was basically like, yeah, no, there's 12 characters. Mario Kart 8 then basically did nothing, like you can go under the water now, and Mario Kart 7 was like, yeah, you can fly, but none of that really changes the gameplay. But yeah, it's my favorite Mario Kart. I could talk all day about it, but next we have Time Splitters 2, probably my most played local multiplayer first-person shooter. Like, you see Counter-Strike at the top, but Time Splitters 2 was, for me, the offline best multiplayer shooters, together with 007 or James Bond Nightfire on the GameCube too. Great maps, great character selection. Like, you can be a monkey, you can be an octopus, you can be handyman, you can be a calamari, you can be, no, the calamari is the octopus. You can be a sexy woman, you can be a sexy man, you can be a zombie, you can be anything really. And the maps were fun, the challenges were fun. You can't imagine how hard it was to get every challenge onto a platinum. The story mode was great, especially in co-op, even though I hate Neo Tokyo. Neo Tokyo, with its forced stealth at the start, fuck that shit. But aside from that, every story mission it's fine. Like, some are better than others, but they also change depending on the difficulty. Like, if you play on normal, you sometimes don't get all the level. While if you play on a higher difficulty, you get all the level and more missions and stuff like that. And yeah, but it explodes in fun in the multiplayer, especially with friends, obviously. There's a map editor which kind of sucked, but there were so many game modes like virus, and where you basically have to make everyone virused, where you basically just touch someone. Like, you run to someone and you virus them. You know, it's like a zombie mode where you touch someone and they turn into a zombie too. It's like tag. And that was so much fun on Space Station 17, I think. You know, when you defend yourself like in the middle with the big space station, and then you fall down and you run through the tunnels. And it was just so much fun. Next we have Okage, Shadow King. which is a JRPG on the PlayStation 2. I have to say the dungeons absolutely fucking suck ass, but the overall atmosphere of the game is just so amazing. The art style of the characters and everything. It is such a great game with its story and its music, the atmosphere. Like, the characters are so much fun. When I recently played, I played this for the first time last year, and I was so amazed. Like, it immediately drew me in, because the character, he makes his own choices in the dialogue, and it's funny dialogue. It's not like stupid funny, it's like actually funny. Like, your character is very much a shadow, because nobody really cares about him, because he's just so ordinary that everyone is making fun of him for it, and he knows it, and that's why he's like, he's not really self-depreciating about it, but he's just funny about it. Like, all the dialogue options are like, you know, where you're a little bit more bold, and then the third one is always like ... they're ignoring you again. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a very funny game. The characters are amazing. It's like a interactive folklore book in a way, and the music is so great. The music is like this Gaia music, where it really feels like it just perfectly fits the atmosphere of the game, where it's like a dark carnival kind of music, and it oozes so much charm. Like, even though the actual gameplay, it's a turn-based JRPG, it's really just mediocre, and the dungeons are basically, you go into a dungeon, and in every dungeon there's like these big there's like these big mugs kinda, and you have to destroy the mugs in every dungeon to get to the next stage kinda, basically, and it just kinda sucks. But aside from that, it's a very lovely game. Many people say it's like a playable Tim Burton movie, and I would agree with that if I would have watched more Tim Burton movies, except just Nightmare Before Christmas. That's the only one I've watched. So, the last one in this row is Danganronpa 2. Danganronpa is a franchise that is kind of dearly to me. Danganronpa 1, for me, has the bad atmosphere. And it's such a unique atmosphere, because you're always in the little school. Obviously, the school has like different floors, but none of the floors really make you think like there's hope. Like, you're still in the school where it's like, what's the deal about all of this? It's so mysterious and everything. And then Danganronpa, obviously Danganronpa 3 has also a school, but that school is like super school. Like, it's not like a school that makes you think, okay. It's like a school that has like everything. There's like fucking grass and shit like that, and so many special rooms. But Danganronpa 1, but nothing about... Why am I comparing them? Danganronpa 2 obviously doesn't have the atmosphere of 1 anymore, because you're like on a freaking island, or multiple ones. But the actual characters feel like more fun, even though it has a few characters that mirror each other in a way, especially also in the third game. It is such a fresh code, and the thing is, I didn't dislike a single character. Like, no, some people would say Soda was fucking terrible, and you know, Soda is just a funny dude. He's a funny mechanic who's a little bit of a simp. Not in a bad, I mean, kind of in a bad way. He's a little bit too horny. I mean, obviously, there's also Tero Maru, or whatever his name is, the cook. Obviously, I'll take it back. There's one bad character in the game. Even though, you know, I laughed at his lines. Like, he's not bad, he's funny, he's comic relief. He makes me kind of laugh at certain points. But you know, the overall characters, the story revelations, the actual cases are all great. Even though, you know, Danganronpa, if you think about it, every game or every case in those games kind of mirrors each other. But, you know, maybe if you never played the games, I shouldn't talk too much about it. Like, maybe there's... I didn't spoil anything yet. I won't. But I have to drink something real quick. And then the kind of games where it really depends on which characters you love the most. You know, your favorite Danganronpa game will probably depend on which game has your favorite characters. Which characters you get attached to. You know, my favorite character from Danganronpa 1 was Celestia. From Danganronpa 2, maybe Mikan, like maybe a weird pick, but it would also be Chiaki. Even though, you know, Chiaki is the kind of character that is like made to waifu bait, because she's like basically perfect. But, you know, normally I don't fall for these perfect waifu bait characters, but I fell for her. But anyways, that's not even the point. I love all the characters except maybe the cook. Even though he's still kind of cool. I loved also the Yakuza guy. The thing is, I'm bad with names. And Peko. Like, now it sounds like I only remember the name of the female characters, but... what's the name? Nagato. You know, I remembered his name. Was it his name, Nagato? I think. But anyways, Danganronpa 2 is my favorite in the franchise, but it's like really close. Like, they are not taking much from each other. Next we have Odin Spear. One of the rare games I owned twice. Back in the day, again, just like Fragile Dreams, I saw this game in the magazine GamePro, and I was like, wow, this looks amazing. So I bought it for the PlayStation 2, and I beat it, I played it, and was like, wow, this was an amazing game. Great story, great graphics, super music, great gameplay, everything's great about it. And then they also released it for the PS3 with additional content, and I had to buy it again. And for me, it's the best Vanillaware game because it has the best mix between everything. It's like the perfect complete package. Like, no, you can say, oh, what about 30 Sentinels? Also a great game. I've started it once. I didn't finish it. I should go back to doing that one day. Now they're also releasing like the Unicorn game soon. But Odin Spear was like the complete package. The thing is, I also played Dragon's Crown. The thing about Dragon's Crown for me was it was too much gameplay orientated. Like, the story in that game is kind of like, you know, it's like more about the gameplay itself, which kind of plays like Odin Spear. So in a way, I can just stick with Odin Spear. But yeah, it's also like a playable folklore book, kinda, just like Okage. And Odin Spear even more to a degree because it has actual like mythology around old gods and stuff like that. So next we have Drakengard 3, which is my favorite Drakengard game, and I've played them all. Or I could go even one step further. It's my favorite Yoko Taro game. I played Nier 1, and I played also Nier Automata. I didn't like both that much. I played Drakengard 1, I was like, there's something interesting about the game. It's not fun to play. The music is kind of shit, but it's like shit on purpose. It's very unique. Let's call it like that. I kind of thought it's going hard, because obviously with the different endings and what happens at the end of each of them. Then Drakengard 2 obviously is the hated bastard child in the franchise, because it was barely Yoko Taro related, even though I kind of love Drakengard 2. It plays better than the first one, and it has a less unique story, but something about it is just still very hopeful and nice. And then Drakengard 3, obviously Yoko Taro came back for it mostly. Geez, my throat just, it felt like I was choking. Drakengard 3 is a shitpost of a game. Like, the thing is, I don't mind the FPS issues that much. Many people would tell you this runs at like 10 FPS sometimes, and you know, sometimes it does. But something about the game just resonates with me. It makes me laugh. It makes me think, cool game. It feels like a shitpost that means it. It's not a game that is ashamed of itself. Like, there would be many games that would be written like this, where they kinda don't take themselves seriously. But this game takes itself seriously while being not that serious at certain points. And that's what makes me so happy with the game, that it isn't afraid of what it is. Other games would be like, haha, look, we wrote bad dialogue and now we write even more bad dialogue because isn't that funny? Hehe, look how ironic we are. But this is like unironically where you feel the heart of it, kinda. That's how I see it. Like, some people would call it bad dialogue, I call it sincere dialogue. You know, like from one to the next line, she goes from pegging to, you know, a little bit backstory time. And it's a pretty tragic story. Like, it seems more like a shitpost. Like, at first she's like, oh, I'm gonna kill all my sisters because they kind of deserve it. And then after each other, you learn more and more about the reasons and what is happening in the world and stuff like that. And then when you get to the last boss, I haven't done it yet. I tried for around 30 hours. I got really close, but then it never wanted to work again. One day I will come back to it and get the last ending. Even though, you know, I'm not missing out on anything. I missed out on like 2 lines of dialogue, but I want them. So it's a fun game to play also. Like, it actually is fun to play, in my opinion. Like, there's obviously way better hack and slash games out there, but something about it is just so much fun. So, then we have Harvest Moon Back to Nature, which was my first Harvest Moon, and people would be like, oh, but Stardew Valley. But Stardew Valley, for me, lacks the charm of Harvest Moon, the old ones. Like, Stardew Valley has better mechanics, more content. But the old Harvest Moon games on the Game Boy or Super Nintendo or Back to Nature, Nintendo 64, they have the atmosphere that makes me love them. Maybe I'm a weep. You know, maybe it's the anime art style, even though, you know, you can get anime mods for Stardew Valley. But something about Harvest Moon Back to Nature, mostly because it was my first one, made me think, yeah. It was also the first game ever, really, that showed me video games are not always just video games, in a way. It was the first game I played that made me think, hey, you know, a game can be many things. Even farming can be a game. Before that, you know, it was always like adventures and action and weird locations, and then Harvest Moon is basically just a farm with a village. And it was the first game I played in that kind of style. It made me think, hey, video games can be a little bit more than that, even though it's not that deep. But, you know, Harvest Moon Back to Nature, my favorite Harvest Moon, despite lacking many things that most modern farming games have. You know, every time I try to replay it, I get bored fairly quickly of it because of that. But still, just the atmosphere still makes me have it as my favorite farming game. Ape Escape 3, one of my favorite jumping ones of all time, because it just oozes the charm again. You can see this with many things on my list so far, where I just say it has the most charm and the best atmosphere. But Ape Escape 3 is like Ape Escape 1, good game. Ape Escape 2, also pretty fun, but something about the third one is just so perfect. The style, the music, even though the music from the first two games are also great. But Ape Escape 3 again is the complete package of everything. It's a, I wouldn't say perfect game, because there's like these mini sections where you take over like a mecha and you have to use like both sticks, and I'm so fucking bad at using both sticks to control it perfectly that I'm stupid. Every time I do those passages, I think like, am I fucking stupid or what? And yes, I am. So, I mean, there's not much else to say. The gadgets are great to use. It's just a game. It's my comfy feel game. And the next game is also comfy feel good game for me, which is Getu Woman. Getu Woman is a game about a loser who has a crush on a girl, and she doesn't have a crush on him back, and she's like kind of dating his crush. Wait. And his bully is kind of dating his crush. They're not really dating, but basically he's a loser. And then one day he has a dog called Puma, and Puma, for some reason, he's in the room with U1, even though U1 is changed form. I forgot his normal name right now. He's like a loser, and I kind of want to remember his name right now. Like I said, I'm bad with names, but U1 is like his new form when he picks up the Getu, because for some reason this dog is like a descendant of some family, or he's a descendant, something like that. It's a kind of story that makes you think, cool. And he forces you a guitar, and you don't really know how to play guitar, but suddenly you have like the special guitar, and you know how to play guitar against a little imp, and then suddenly stuff happens. You get attacked by Jojo, some jazz dude who plays trumpet, and then you fly into space and you fight against some giant shark and a giant mecha, and you land on a different planet, and you meet a girl that looks exactly like your crush, and you impress her with your guitar playing skills, and then you have to actually fight against her because she was a double agent for the big dude, who is a reference to David Bowie, who also then transforms into a cooler looking version of himself, while you transform into the most stupid looking extra edition of yourself. And I really hope that one day he won't look like that, actually, because he will look like a fucking loser. And then you play the guitar and you get all the special orbs into the guitar, and you banish him somewhere, and everything goes fine again. And it's a rhythm game, and it's crazy, great graphics again. It really reminds you of the early 2000s or middle 2000s, and it's a comfy feel-good game. It's like an hour. I can just sometimes pop it into the emulator. I have the original copy too. I even have it on PSP, even though I don't have a PSP, because I found it on eBay once for like $5 while it's sealed, and I was like, yeah, let's buy that. And obviously the soundtrack is more on the rocky side, but there's also like Mexican music. There's like reggae. There's pop. There's soul music. Like, despite obviously always having a little bit of a rocky feeling because of the guitar, there's like so much variety in the music, which is really great. So it has great music, great graphics game, and it's just a good feel game. It kind of shows you can be a loser, but you can be a cool loser. Dark Souls 2, now you're gonna punch me in the face and ask me, why the worst Souls, you idiot? But for me, it's not the worst Souls. For me, it's the Souls with the most variety. And that's what I love. And obviously, the biggest issues that some people have are the hitboxes, but the thing is, some other Souls games also have fairly bad hitboxes. Don't kill me for that. But, you know, I'm just saying, grab hitboxes in Elden Ring and Sekiro are kind of broken. Just look at the Ogre. But it's not about that. It's not. I'm not trying to fight anyone. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But what I love about Dark Souls 2 is the variety in location, the Black Gulch, the castle, the what's the name? The Shaded Woods. The Shaded Woods is one of the worst sections, but it's one of the coolest looking ones with like these centaurs things and the giant basilisk, and then afterwards you also have like these woods that are invisible enemies. Those sections are not fun to play, but I love the variety in the locations. Like Dark Souls 1, sometimes it has great locations. Arno Londo, the hidden one, the lake of Ash of... It's not Ash Lake. Ash Lake was the third game, was it? Where you basically find the hidden thing in Blighttown, and that's one of the coolest looking locations in any video game. Obviously, Dark Souls 1 has great looking locations, but sometimes it's a forest, it's that thing. But for me, Dark Souls 2 doesn't really force itself to have ununique locations where they don't make sense. That's the good thing about Dark Souls 2. It doesn't have to make sense. I don't care about the interconnected world, which is one of the best cases of a sequel can be different, right? Like, Dark Souls 1's world is very greatly built on top of itself. Everywhere you go, it makes sense that it is there. There's nothing that makes you think, huh, why is there a volcano in the middle of a mansion, that kind of stuff, you know, from Dark Souls 2. But in a way, it appeals to me that Dark Souls 2 doesn't really give a fuck about that. That it doesn't want this interconnected world. It is cool to loop around at certain places, but I like it when you go through something and suddenly you're in a completely different world. Like, seeing the Black Gulch made me think, I want more of this. The Black Gulch is like such a short experience, sadly, and a very annoying one with the poisonous fucking statues. But that's also what I loved about Demon Souls. Like, every time you went into a new level, you got a completely new looking level, kinda. Obviously, some of them were kind of built on top of each other, like the 1-1, then the bridge on 1-2. They connect each other, but sometimes you had like the Tower of Latria, which is completely different from the other Tower of Latria part. And that's what made it so unique for me in Dark Souls 2, where you wouldn't know where you end up sometimes. But aside from that, I love the variety in builds. And maybe it doesn't stack up with the gameplay too much. It feels a little bit different, but you know, if I tell my take about iframes, I will get lynched. So I think iframes, not having them, is a good thing. If you want them, put points into ADP, right? But I think, you know, some people just get too relaxed to their iframes from the other Souls games and go like, yay. But anyways, you know, if I talk about that, I really will get into angry arguments. And I don't want that. So next game is Metroid Prime 2. My favorite Metroid game, or also Metroid Prime game then. It has like the same specialness as Super Metroid for me. The thing is, Obviously, Metroid Prime 2 obviously also suffers from the one problem that Metroid Prime had, a little bit of backtracking, but I love the dark world in a way where it really feels annoying, but in a cool way. Like, as a kid, I didn't really get what's so cool about the dark world because it's just annoying, but it's very oppressive, and I love being oppressed. I'm looking for a master to oppress me, and then something about it just feels so annoying in a masochistic way to me. Like, maybe I'm talking too much about my fetish right now, but something about it was just Metroid Prime 1, but more oppressive, more bleak. And then you also had like better bosses. You had the Sanctuary Fortress. The backdrop in that level when you look down into the city, it's like an amazing feeling. Like, obviously one thing that maybe sucked was like the missile things where you could kind of run out of it sometimes. You know, the dark shots and the light shots, but it wasn't that bad if you would actually kind of control them. Basically, it's like, for me, it's Metroid Prime 1, but a little bit better. And one day I want to make a complete video about it. I want to make a video about like the complete Metroid Prime trilogy, which will one day be a follow-logy, but maybe till I get that video finished, it will release. I kind of want to do a marathon now, like play every Metroid Prime game in a row. Yeah, maybe not in a row, but, you know, play them in like a short amount of time and then compare them together and stuff like that. But yeah, it's my favorite one. Next we have Terranigma for the Super Nintendo. I think it's the only Super Nintendo game here, even though the Super Nintendo was an amazing console. It's really hard to sometimes pick 25 entries only. Like, there could be 50 and I still would have too many picks where I would have to left them out. So, Terranigma is a JRPG, or like, it's not really a JRPG, it's like an action adventure, mostly, where you have level ups when you kill enough enemies, but you can't really level anything. It's more like an action RPG kind of thing. It's like Secret of Evermore, Secret of Mana, that kind of style. And it is so nice to play, and mostly about the story. You know, the story about environmental change. Because your world kind of gets destroyed and you kind of have to build the world up again. And it is done in such a nice way where there's also one thing I love, especially in games, where you help a town to get built. Because there's a side quest in the game where you go to a city and they have a major voting. And if you vote for the wrong one, the city won't evolve anymore. But if you pick the right person, there's more quests for you to do where it involves stuff like you have to develop the camera, for example, and stuff like that for those people. You help them out to evolve stuff. And, you know, you go through like different cities, and it is such a nice story. It goes really deep. It really is about how we should, you know, kind of be more concerned about our world and how we should kind of save it or try to save it. But it's also a great game to play, great characters, the music is just, mwah. You know, everything about the game just makes you feel. Like, there's a few things where, as a kid, when I first played it, I got stuck so often. Like, there's some places where you think, where do I have to go next? And I have those things even when I replay the game. Like, sometimes I'm like, what do I do here now? And the Bloody Mary fight, holy shit. I really hate that fight. But great game. It makes you very sentimental. And yeah. Next we have Pro Evolution Soccer. And Pro Evolution Soccer was one of the first games I ever played, but it wasn't Pro Evolution Soccer, it was International Superstar Soccer Deluxe, which eventually then turned into the Pro Evolution Soccer franchise that we know nowadays. I kinda don't like it that it's called Pro Evolution Soccer instead of Pro Evolution Football, but you know, that's how it is called in Japan too, I guess. Even though there it's called Winning 11. So actually, they kinda wanted the American audience. But, you know, for people who don't know, I love football. And back in the day, it was either Pro Evo or FIFA. And FIFA kind of sucked ass. And when I got a PlayStation 2, I bought Pro Evolution Soccer 5. And it felt so much better than FIFA. I was like, the thing is, Pro Evolution Soccer is like, this is like a game that was for the PlayStation 1. It's not my favorite one, but this website did not have Pro Evolution Soccer 5 to choose from. But for me, Pro Evolution Soccer 5 or 4 and 6 are the best. And after the next gen versions, only versions, those sucked ass. Pro Evolution Soccer became ass with the PlayStation 3 and 360 versions. The new engine was so freaking bad. They basically made FIFA win. Back in the day, Pro Evolution Soccer didn't have the licenses for all the clubs, which was a little bit sad. They still had a lot of Dortmund players, luckily, that allowed to buy for my team. Lars Ricken or Weinfeller even. But eventually, they couldn't win people with the gameplay anymore. But anyway, that's not the point. Pro Evolution Soccer 5 and 6, they have the best gameplay in football history. There's no better controlling football game than those two games. I love grinding those games online every freaking day after school. Doing Master League, making your own perfect team, giving your own challenges. Best football games ever made. And yeah, you know, it's football in the end, but the best football ever. And I'm so sad that Pro Evolution Soccer became so bullshit that it gave FIFA free kingdom, kind of. You know, they don't even have to improve or anything, because there's nothing to, you know, make them better themselves. Yeah, Crosscode. Yes, actually there was Gothic 2 a few days ago, but for me, in one way, Crosscode overtook Gothic 2 as my favorite German-made game ever. You know, there's not that many German-made games. Like, we have Crosscode, we have Chain Echoes, which I haven't played yet, maybe one day I will. But it was always mostly Gothic, or for some people even Weizen. Piranha Bytes, you know, the people behind it, even though I think those were the publishers. But anyways, Gothic 2, enough Gothic 2. Crosscode, it's a game that is very hard to describe what it really is. Like, I love to say it's basically a simulation of an MMO, which it is, because you're kind of stuck in an MMO. Haha, Sword Art Online, am I right, folks? But you take over Leia, and you know, she's kind of stuck in the MMO, and you have to find out why and what is going on. And the gameplay is like you have like a ball shooting machine thing, and you shoot like balls, but you can also load the balls, and there's like many different types of balls, and there's like different skills and upgrade chains. You can get different abilities like fire and everything, elemental damage things. But what is so great about the game are the puzzles. Like, there's dungeons, and they are better than Zelda dungeon at points, like 2D Zelda dungeons. Like, there's some puzzles where you have to push stuff with the balls, or you have to push other things, and you push something and you shoot the ball at it, and the ball bounces from that point to this point and that point, and you have to perfectly line it up and stuff like that. And some of those puzzles made my head blow. Like, sometimes I would hang at a puzzle for an hour, and then I finally got it right and was like, holy shit, we got it, folks. And that's what I love about the game. But the combat system is also great by shooting balls, balls. And it's a game that I would recommend to anyone. And it's on sale on Steam fairly often if you want it. It is an extremely charming game. Leia is really cute. The people she hangs out with, really cute. And it's made by Germans. And you can feel it. Like, there's one character in the game. I think his name was like Jürgen. I forgot his name. Sorry, Jürgen. I think his name is Jürgen. And again, I'm bad with names. And it's the dialogue is just so fun. It really feels like you actually chatting with other players in an MMO, kind of. Like, there's some people who are a little bit more edgy because they're like, yeah, I'm in an MMO, I can act edgy, I can live out my real self. And then the German dude is like, Hallöchen. Like, he really talks like a German dude doing MMO times, kind of. It's really cute and charming, and has great dungeons. And, you know, exploring the towns is fun. The movement itself is fun. It's a really fun game. It's really great. Next, we have HalfLife. Actually not. We have Counter-Strike 1.6, my most played multiplayer online game. Like I said, Times 2 is my favorite offline multiplayer game, but I keep saying Half-Life because it's like it says Half-Life instead of Counter-Strike, because it was a mod at first for Half-Life. And yeah, I spent thousands of hours in that game on fun servers on gathers, on like ESL, the Electronic Sports League. I got friends into the game. I got friends from the game. Hanging out on community servers with modded sounds files. I'm getting nostalgic. I will never forgive Gaben for patching the game that before Global Offensive came out. Because they tried to make people move onto Source, but nobody wanted to move into Source because Source was a worse game. And 1.6 was still superior with the hitbox and everything. And then when Global Offensive came out, they didn't want to repeat that. And they basically said, hey, we're going to give one last patch to 1.6. And that patch made the game worse, so people would actually have to move on. The thing is, I have to sneeze. So... oh. Gesundheit. And I will never forgive Gaben for doing that to me. But, you know... that's just life. Undertale. I don't want to brag or anything like that, but I played it on release day. You know, because I followed the development of it. And going blind into the game was one of the best... Sorry, I have to keep burping now because of the sneeze. Going into the game blind is one of the best things you can ever do, because there's no... You don't know what to expect. Nowadays, Undertale is such a big game where you know there's multiple routes. You know the characters even without playing the game. You know the music. You know many things about the game. And which is a bit sad, you know? Like, I hate it when people say, oh, you know, you should do this in your first playthrough. Like, there's so many people that I've seen online that go like, oh, you know, maybe you should... They don't kill anyone. Zwinker, Zwinker. Zwinker means like wink, wink in German. I don't know why I went German mode. And I hate it when people kind of try to influence someone like that. If I would recommend Undertale to a person who has never seen it, never heard anything about it, I would say to them, enjoy. I won't tell them anything about it. Like, I hate it when people really say like, oh, maybe you should do fights without fighting. You know, like giving little hints that maybe to a person who plays the game for the first time won't truly make sense. It still influences them in a way, right? But playing it for the first time ever is an experience that makes you think, wow. Like, wow. Like, one of the best soundtracks ever. Great story. It's quirky without the overness, quirkiness that other games try to do. Like, sometimes you try to play like Undertale-like games, but the quirkiness is like, it feels too forced. While Undertale felt like perfect. It has like the perfect amount of seriousness when it needs it, and quirkiness and silliness. And I even have this problem with Deltarune. I think Deltarune is a little bit too much in its own butt quirkiness. I don't know how to describe it. Like, obviously it's really hard to already have a total review facet or like review of Deltarune because it's not finished. There's like still 5 chapters that are missing. But something about the first 2 chapters together made me think, something is a little bit... It felt more annoying at points. Like, I don't know how to describe it. But this is about Undertale, and the thing is, Deltarune still amazing games. Like, it's not like I hate them. It's more like something about them didn't hate as much as Undertale, but Undertale is a finished experience, while Deltarune misses like 70% still, where you don't know how the characters end up, the development of them, and stuff like that. So, obviously I shouldn't judge it too harshly yet. But yeah, I'm really hoping we will still Deltarune completed before maybe 2030, maybe, hopefully. But yeah, Undertale is such a unique experience that made me cry. Not really cry, but it made me feel things. It made me feel wow. And it gave me the special feeling, just like Cafe, like I said, where it made me think, how was this mostly created by one person? You know, it really gives you the determination, haha, to really create things too. And maybe one day I will, maybe I won't, who knows. But it's a game really dear to me. Then we have Yoshis Island 2. Just like International Superstar Soccer was one of my first games I've ever played at my grandma's house on my uncle's Super Nintendo, because my uncle lived literally next door to my grandma, and every time we went visit there, you know, they knew kids and grannies. Granny is not a bad word to use, right? Like, just because you say granny doesn't mean you had your grandma. Like, you know, when you're like 6, 7, 8 years old, and the adults talk about stuff, you know, it's boring for the kids. So they always brought over the Super Nintendo that we could sometimes play on. And one of the games was Yoshi's Island, or also Mario All-Stars. But I mostly loved, I mean, I love both games, but Yoshi's Island was like, wow. And even nowadays, the thing is, going for 100% in it makes me go insane. But just a casual one every year makes me think, what an amazing looking game. What a great game in general. It really makes me sad for Yoshi games nowadays. Like, I always hear Woody, like the Wii U one is fine, I think, but the Switch one, many people say it was very meh. But people always say good things about the Wii U game. That's Woody World, right? Like, why did they make the names so freaking close to each other? Or maybe I'm just stupid. I mean, bad at remembering names. And yeah, Yoshi's Island is just obviously a slow jumping one. And there's some levels that make me really insane. But overall, it's a game that has everything that I want in a jumping one. Great level design. And just fun. Playing it puts a smile on my face. Twilight Princess, my favorite Zelda game. And yeah, Twilight Princess is my favorite Zelda game. It has the best dungeons in 3D. Maybe even the best story, even though story in a Zelda game never really was like, wow. But it's cute. It's a story that made me think, like as a kid when I played it, I was like, Sand is the coolest motherfucker alive. I was so mad when they replaced him with Ganondorf, even though it was kind of implied that that's gonna happen. But you know, Sand was just a psycho. I loved him. He was very, like when you play it again, he's like kind of silly. But as a kid, I really was like, damn, this guy is cool. Midna is the best companion you have in any Zelda game. She's not annoying, and even if she would be annoying, I would let her be annoying. She's funny, she's teasing, she's hot. I remember back in the day, you know, I used the Zelda fan forum, and even there, some people said some rather sexual comments about Midna. And I was like, what? You know, I was like, when the game came out, I was like 13. So I was like, why would anyone think Midna is hot? What the fuck? And then I beat the game, and at the end of the game, you know what happens. And then I would be like, oh, now I see why people think she's hot. But nowadays, let's just say that I have found a new appreciation for Imp Midna. But yeah, it has the best. The one thing that kind of sucks about the game is, I guess, the overworld. But I made a video about this. It has this really unique atmosphere and charm about the NPCs. And it's like the last Zelda that really reminds me of those games. Like Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess are deep. No, that, I mean, they're kind of deep, but they're also kind of dark in their own ways. Like, I just love how ugly both games can get with their NPC designs and overall story. Like, Twilight Princess is not a very dark game, really. It's dark because there's a dark world, but it's not really, like, edgy or something like that. Just because it's a little bit darker than the usual Zelda game. It's not that dark, but something about it, you know. And I still love the look of the game. Like, obviously it has like this bloom, and it's maybe it didn't hold up as well as maybe something like Wind Waker, but whenever we play the game, I'm like, yeah, this still looks amazing to me. Like, getting to Lake Hylia the first time with the water and stuff, it made me think, holy shit, this looks amazing for a Wii game, even though it was basically also a GameCube game. But yeah, best dungeons in the whole franchise, and there's so many of them. Thanks for Wind Waker for not getting finished, so we got 2 extra dungeons in Twilight Princess, basically. You know, Twilight Force Hunt, thank you for happening. And yeah, it's my favorite Zelda game, and I think it will stay that way. And yeah, I could talk about, like, I could talk so much about most of these games, but, you know, I don't want to keep you too long. And now, we got Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I made a whole video about, which goes roughly an hour, mostly about the story and characters, but, you know, Xenoblade 2, or you could exchange it with Xenogears, and I think Xenoblade 2 edges it out a little bit. It's maybe even my favorite game of all time. It has an amazing story, amazing characters, amazing soundtrack, great graphics, it's not a perfect game. There's field skills and maybe the gacha system, but in a way, those two complaints, I don't really care about them. I totally see why it bothers people, but to me, they are such little flaws, really, that I don't really care about them. Like, the gacha system gives me a reason to kind of sometimes replay it. And the thing is, obviously, you know, everyone wants to have Cosmos, and, you know, I kind of got her early sometimes. Sometimes I didn't. But every playthrough, it makes it a little bit more unique in the beginning. Even though, obviously, when you have multiple replays, you will probably get, like, most of the bad blades first. Especially nowadays, when you first played the game. I think this was mostly a thing where if you don't have the DLC, like, if you don't have the DLC in the game, there's not that many crystal cores at the start. Like, a legendary one is pretty rare, and there's like only like 10 in the overall game, and unless you grind for them, so you have to kind of try to get the hard blades with rare crystals. But if you buy the DLC, you obviously have tons of them at the start when you can use them, and you also have these protocol overdrives. Protocol overdrives in the original game were very rare, like there were like 4 or 5 in the whole game, and what they made was change the blade from one person. Like, if you pull one blade on Vex and you want it on Nia, you had to waste one protocol overdrive, and there's only like 4 or 5 of them in the game. So that made it also kind of worse sometimes, where you pulled the blades on the wrong characters and you were like, should I really use it now? But for the DLC, sadly only for the DLC, when you have the season pass or you buy the expansion, you get tons of items that make that different. So while the gameplay gacha is kind of shit, but because of those things, I don't mind it that much. And the field skills are kind of also like, I don't really care. Like, the thing is, there's like 2 main quest ones where it could get a little bit hard to get those, but I never really got stuck at the main point. Like, when you go exploring, there will be a few where it's impossible to beat them without really going for them, but if you play through the game normally, they are not that really annoying. But obviously, if it kind of sucks if you explore and you find a path, and then suddenly path is like, oh, you have like 5 dark blade points here, and then you can't proceed. That kind of sucked, but overall, it's not that bad to me. Again, like, it just shows me, hey, guess I'm gonna level up another blade one now. EP. But again, totally, I'm not trying to defend those points. It's just, for me, those points don't matter too much. But what I really love, story and characters, and the exploration. Well, obviously, no, you can say, but the exploration, the field skills, but there's just so many locations that made me think, wow. Like Uraya, Lefarian Archipelago, are places that made me think, wow. Wow. Combined with the music. I just looked around and was like, wow. And, you know, the story, I mean, I talk in great detail about the characters, how deep they are, in my video about Xenoblade 2. But overall, it takes you for such a ride that I will never forget. Like, it's the kind of game that starts a little bit slowly, even though I wouldn't even agree with that too much. Like, you start on Argentum, you learn about Rex, what he does, and how the world is at its end, kinda. And then you have, like, this big confrontation at the end with Malos and action. Then the second chapter, you have to break out Nia, and you meet Poppy, one of the best characters in the game. And even Towa, I love the little fuzzy dude. Yeah, in chapter 3, it elaborates with like Mythos showing up and crazy shit happening. Chapter 4, which is hated by most people, is also kind of great because it just goes totally off the rails with like mecha shit, and it even has some main story stuff where always people say like, oh, chapter 4 is filler, and some stuff is probably kind of filler, like the crystal getting stolen by the kids. But overall, you know, I love the whole mecha references in that chapter. And from there on, chapter 5, a little bit slowly again. Chapter 6 escalates again. Chapter 7 is like, wow, Nia, I love you. Chapter 8 is like, wow. Chapter 9 is wow. Chapter 10 is like, wow. And if you played Xenoblade 1 before you played Xenoblade 2, it was an experience on the same level as Pokemon Silver in a way. You know, like getting to the cutscene, that cutscene at the end, and you realize the game is basically running at the same time of Xenoblade 1, and it made you think, what the fuck? It made me think, holy shit. Like, you have played prequels before, you have played sequels, but what is it called when a game runs at the same time as the game as before? Like, I have never experienced something like that again. That was so mind-blowing that I sat there and was like, wow. And yeah, it is such a unique experience. It's sad in one way. Xenoblade 3 was a little bit of a disappointment in comparison to that. And Xenoblade 2 is just everything I ever wanted in a JRPG. Amazing characters. They are funny. They have deepness to it. They have depth. They make me happy. They make me sad. They make me feel every emotion I ever had. I love the designs. I love how every blade is designed by a different person. Like, many people say, oh, it doesn't feel cohesive, but I don't care about cohesiveness. I love non-cohesive things. I love it when every character looks different. I love it when characters look crazy. I love it when they look stupid. I love character designs that are grounded. I love character design that go all the way. I don't think characters can be over-designed. Give me shark teeth on a girl. Give me glasses on that girl. Give me freckles on a girl. Give me twinkles on that girl. Give me 5 different hair colors on that girl. Give her amazing boots. Give her... I don't fucking know. I love characters that are designed in such a way where the designer is like, yeah, you know what? We kind of design a character where we don't give a fuck what other people will think about them. I think this is a great design. I will create this design. And yeah, to a degree, you can. I'm not trying to say that Pyra isn't a horny design. It is, but who cares? I don't care. I don't mind it. So what now? Now, obviously, you can open this can of worms about how all the characters are sexualized, but I don't care. That's not my problem. When people care about it, sure. I don't. So I don't. What else is there to say? I love grounded characters too sometimes, like. Final Fantasy IX is not a very sexualized game, except for Zidane accidentally groping a butt once. So, you know, both kind of work. But yeah, you know, what can I say? There's so much more to say, but those were kind of my top 25 games of all time. Obviously, you know, there's some honorable mentions I could add, like Omori, Mario Strikers or Mario Smash Football for the GameCube, Mario 64. There's so many more. Breath of the Wild, not Tears of Kingdom though. Yeah, there's so many more I could mention. I could do a whole top 100 list, but that would be too long for a video. I would have to make a top 100 list where I do every game in one video, and that would make 100 videos. Maybe I should do that. Make one video every day, even though I would probably pass out from doing too many. But anyways, those are my top 25 picks for today. You know, maybe tomorrow one of these games would change. But yeah, I talked a little bit too much. I need to relax my throat. And now I have to freaking collect 25 different gameplay games. Nice. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you can tell me if my taste is bad, even though I won't really care. Or you can tell me about your taste. Maybe we have a lot of games in common, you know? Tell me if you enjoyed some of these games too, if you want to. Not forcing you to. So, good night and have a happy day next day. And you know, blah blah, like the video, blah blah, subscribe, blah 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 blah.